Hey, what's up my dudes? Today I've got a pretty interesting video for you. I'm going to be doing a glowstone ring, but I'm going to be using materials that were sent to me from my customer. So this guy, he's really cool. His name's Riley. He sent me all these different materials to use in his ring. You'll see I've just got the glowstone powders that I'm going to use for it. Those I already had, of course, but then you'll see these next materials that I'm using. So first we've got in this little white folded paper, there's some gold leaf in there, so we're going to be integrating some of that. And then next we've got this chunk of Lapis Lazuli. Lapis Lazuli is a really blue material. You'll see I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol on it to get it wet. This is what it kind of looks like once it's polished. And so it's a very deep blue, really nice color to it. So I really like this material. This is going to be fun to add in there. So I'm going to break off some pieces of this and use it. And the third thing he sent me, this piece of Obsidian. So this is naturally formed glass. It's this dark black color and it's pretty translucent. And so this will add kind of a really cool, like ghosty look to the ring. You'll see the black pieces of glass in there. Once it's done, they're transparent, and so you can see down to the metal on the ring, so it's a bit reflective, but it's also really dark and shadowy, so it gives the ring kind of a mysterious look. And then the fourth and final thing that he sent to me were these little pieces of sterling silver. These are just some leftover pieces of sterling silver that he had. And so all four of these materials had somewhat of a significance to him. So not only are these four interesting materials, but they're also materials that have an actual sentimental value. So I thought this was a really special ring and wanted to share it with you guys. They all look different colors during the day. One's black, one's blue, one's orange. But then when I turn off the lights, and then charge it up with this UV flashlight. And by the way, if you don't have a UV flashlight and you're trying to charge glow things, the sun works really, really well. So you can just use the sun. But you can see they all glow aqua once I turn the lights off. So it's pretty cool. It makes the ring really interesting because it literally changes colors. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the titanium ring blank. I've already got it mounted on this expanding ring mandrel here. And then just put it in my lathe jaws. And then we're going to go ahead and use some adhesive, and we're going to start mounting in all the inlay pieces that we've got. And this ring is going to be a bit of a challenge. There's a ton of different materials that we're using, a lot of different colors, all of that. And it'd be really easy to make this ring look a little over the top, too many colors, too much going on. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind during the whole process. You'll see that when I'm using the glow powders, I mostly use that black, and then I just use the blue and orange to do highlights. So that's one thing I did to help tone it down. And then you'll see the inlay material that I use the most is the Obsidian. And again, that's the same exact reason. It's a lot more subtle. It's that darker color. Now that I've got the lapis and the Obsidian put in there, I'm going to start putting in some of the sterling silver chunks. And these are a bit of a challenging shaped piece to integrate in here. So I'm just doing my best to kind of wedge them in wherever they'll fit. And then I want to make sure they're actually going to show. So I can't just lay them down flat or else they'll get covered by the glow powder. I'm just trying to scatter them around, making sure they poke out a little bit. And then you'll notice I'm not adding the gold leaf yet. That's so thin that it'd probably just get covered up at this stage. So I'm going to do a layer of the charcoal glow powder and then add just a slight amount of the blue and orange. And then now I'm going to go ahead and using my tweezers, just break off little tiny pieces of this gold leaf. And then my strategy here is to just dab it onto the ring where the adhesive is, and let that pull itself off from the tweezers, because this stuff is so thin, even just that little bit of static electricity holding on the tweezers is enough to make this kind of a pain to work with. Now I've added that, now I'm going to go ahead and start adding the rest of the glow powders. Something to note is that I'm not completely covering up all of the gold pieces, and that's because it's so thin that if they were completely covered up, all you'd see was a thin little stripe of the cross section of the thin little gold foil. And so I'm going to leave some clear adhesive there so you can see down into the full sheet of the gold foil there. So to finish up with the glow powders, I'm taking my time and being extra careful. It can be really easy to overdo it with the black, especially because I'm trying to make the other colors a little less prominent. And so I'm making sure to do thin layers and then integrate all three colors into every single layer. Because if I did one really thick black layer and it was placed in the right spot, I'd end up having hardly any, if any, of the blue and orange showing. Now the next step's pretty straightforward. I'm just grabbing the roughest Dremel sandpaper that I have, and then I'm turning on the lathe and then grinding this thing down. I am being really careful not to go too far because the titanium ring blank that we're working with here, you can grind straight into that with the Dremel. It's not hard. So I need to be really careful to go really easy on that titanium. Then once I've got that almost flush, I switched over to a medium to fine grit Dremel sandpaper, and then I just use that to take that all the way down. And I just use that to get it all the way completely flush with the edges of the titanium ring blank. And then from this point, we're ready to switch over to sandpaper. So like almost every single other ring I make, I start with 220, and then I switch over to the 320, then 400, 600, and then 800. So that 800 grit sandpaper will get this ring completely smooth. You won't be able to feel any roughness, any grooves, anything like that with your fingers. But the finish on the ring won't be super shiny or reflective, and that's what we're going to use the polishing steps for. So now that we're done with the sanding steps, we're able to get a really good look at what the ring's actually going to look like. The colors and everything are a bit dull right now, and that's because it hasn't been given that nice polish to it. I'm going to go ahead and put a satin finish with sandpaper on the inside of the ring, and then we'll take care of the polishing, and you'll see what a big difference that makes. So for this satin finish, I just do it because I think it makes the ring look a little bit nicer, and then it also is a bit more grippy, so when you're putting it on and off, it doesn't, like if you're washing your hands with soap, if that inside is completely polished, I feel it's usually a lot easier for it to just slip right off your hand. And so I put that satin finish on there. It's not rough at all, so it's not like it's uncomfortable or anything like that, but it makes it nicer to wear in my opinion. Now we'll head over to the polishing wheel, and that's going to be the final step for this ring. I'm starting on the left with a white polishing compound, and that's a medium to high polish. This is good to use once you've got something completely sanded smooth, and that's the case here. We've got the ring totally smooth, so we don't need to use anything below that, but it's not going to put a really high luster or really good shiny polish on it, and so that's why we do the second step here with the green, and that's a high polish. That's not going to remove any imperfections or anything, it's just going to polish everything. So we start out with the white, that helps clean the ring up, make it look really nice, and then the green just polishes it all the way, gets it super shiny. So I love that combination, that works best for me. And with that, the ring is finished. So you can see it spinning here. This is a really interesting ring. There's just so much going on in it. It's kind of, the way I see it, it's kind of like a little mini museum on your finger. I can totally see why the customer thought this would be cool. I think this is something, whereas think for yourself, if you had 4 materials that you thought were interesting or cool or sentimental in some way, and you're able to crush those up and put them in a ring that you wore every day, I think it'd just be really neat to look down and be able to inspect it and look at it and see all those materials, know what they mean to you, see what they look like. And so I'm totally happy with the way this turned out, and I think Riley's going to love this ring for many years. So that's going to be it for this video. I want to give a huge shout out to Riley. Thanks to him for making this video possible. I think that was an awesome idea, and it turned out to be an awesome ring. I'm not going to be doing custom orders, but I am going to be cranking out as many as the other standard rings I have on my site, and you can customize those pretty heavily, so make sure to check those out. And then, as you guys know, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that's all coming up. I'm going to have some really big deals going on there, so make sure to follow me on Instagram, because that's where I'm going to announce all of those coupon codes and specials, and you're going to see a ton of good discounts going on there. So follow me there. If you want a cool ring with a lot of different customizations in time for Christmas, that's going to be the best place to find me. I've got a link to that in the description. You can also just search Patrick Adair Designs. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate you guys coming in and tuning in once or twice a week, just checking out the videos. Make sure to leave a comment if you got any suggestions for me, any feedback, and I will see you all in the next video.